So I ask you all, whatever this bill is supposed to do, let that bill do it. Let's do that. But like the Hippocratic Oath says, please do no harm.
Welcome back. Tonight, a closer look at the so-called Parental Rights in Education bill in Florida that the governor has signed into law, or as critics call it, Don't Say Gay. So which is it? A narrowly focused law giving parents more control in their kids' education, or an overly broad mandate with an intentional chilling effect on talking about LGBTQ issues at all? Well, for fact's sake, let's see what this bill actually says. First, it prohibits schools from teaching about sexual orientation or gender identity to kids from kindergarten through the 3rd grade. But it also adds, or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. So what's age appropriate? What are those state standards? Well, it's unclear. Adding to the confusion, the law also prohibits classroom discussions about sexual orientation or identity. So it's not just instruction, it's any discussion at all. So does that mean a 3rd grader with gay parents can't talk about her parents in class? Since the law gives parents the right to sue if they're unhappy with what they believe their kids are being taught, this is where Don't Say Gay comes from. Fear that even saying the word, raising the topic, could put the school in real trouble. And if adults are afraid to speak, kids will be too. And I want to be clear, there is nothing shameful about being gay or transgender. But being forced to lie about themselves or their families will put LGBTQ kids in a risky position. They will feel like there is something wrong with them, and that is what's scary. We know that LGBTQ kids are already 4 times more likely to consider suicide than their peers. And as New York Magazine puts it, this bill isn't Don't Say Gay, it's Don't Be Gay or Trans. So let's discuss. Mary Ellen Klas, the state capitol bureau chief for the Miami Herald, and former teacher turned lawmaker, Florida State Senator Shevrin Jones. He is the state's first openly gay senator. Mary Ellen, you've reported extensively on this. Am I getting all of it right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are many provisions here. It is intentionally written vaguely, but that is because they have a rulemaking process that the Secretary of Education yesterday said is going to be used to help give teachers some guidelines. So, you know, whether or not those guidelines do help teachers figure out what is acceptable to say in classes is yet to be determined.
Senator, every state has all sorts of issues they need to address. What was happening in Florida that was so problematic that Republican lawmakers needed to prioritize this issue and pass it into law?
There was nothing. The governor and my Republican colleagues continue to make issues within the state of Florida. Governor DeSantis wants to continue this national agenda with things like CRT and the Don't Say Gay bill, and making those the top issues, totally forgetting about the kitchen table issues that we need to be talking about within the state of Florida, like the property insurance, like the rent crisis that we're having right now. And this is what's happening nationally in more states than just Florida.
Senator, Governor DeSantis's spokesperson, a government employee, tweeted this, quote, "If you're against the anti-grooming bill, you're probably a groomer, or at least you don't denounce the grooming of 4 to 8-year-old children." How insidious is it for a government employee to equate the mere acknowledgement of LGBTQ identities to child abuse? How hurtful is that to hear?
Yeah, well, you know what? Not only is it hurtful, it's disingenuous to a state with 22 million people, which is a melting pot of all type of different nationalities, people from different backgrounds. But in the final days of session that we just wrapped up early last week, many on the other side, they said the quiet part very much out loud. The opponents, and as you just made mention of, we were called groomers by the governor's spokesperson, who he didn't even think to correct. As a matter of fact, he doubled down on that word yesterday at his press conference, basically, which is code word for a pedophile. They even said that schools are socially engineering children. The Florida Family Policy Council president called this a "don't turn my son into a daughter" bill. This is what we're dealing with in Florida, and this is the tone that the Republicans are setting across the country. And I believe that's when you're in distress, you become desperate. And this is the Republicans' last-ditch effort, realizing that the country is going in a totally different direction than they are.
Mary Ellen, the way this law is written, it calls on parents to sue the school districts at taxpayers' expense. Could that not bankrupt a school district within months?
Well, I spoke to a lawyer who represents about 17 school districts in the state, and he's pretty confident that this is actually not something that we're going to see a lot of. And part of it is they did modify the bill and included some provisions that allow parents to bring their concerns to the district. And then if the district doesn't respond, they have an opportunity to go to the Board of Education, and they can hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit. And yes, the cost of the lawsuit against the school district and the attorney's fees will be borne by taxpayers. However, if the case is dismissed in 2 years, there are no damages, but there will be attorney's fees.
Senator, I want to be really clear to our audience. There are no schools actively teaching kindergartners how to identify their sexual orientation. So for people who want this bill to protect their kids from these teachings, there's nothing to protect against. But tell me, what does this do to children of gay parents?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think let's be clear. The Republicans, they know exactly what they're doing. They are discriminating against marginalized people, and they're doing it all in the name of parental rights because they believe it works. Here's what I will say. The same is true for LGBTQ parents. Schools are more often than not hubs for communities. As a matter of fact, teachers are the first responders when we go into the classroom. There have been things that students have shared with me that they just wouldn't share with their parents because they don't have that trust factor. It's the nucleus, a real support system that connects other parts of our broader communities. And that's what children should be able to go to school to share about their families. And families might not look like the family of their classmate, but every family is unique and every family is different, and children should be able to know that. And teachers should be able to teach children to show them that families come in many different colors.
It is hard enough to be a kid. You shouldn't have to hide who your family is. Senator Mary Ellen, thank you both for joining us. And as one wise teacher told me, the only thing teachers are trying to indoctrinate into their students is homework.